Welcome to the new section in this course, Understanding View Model and Live Data, Section 3. This section covers the details which tells why do we need a view model, how to use view model, that is we will see it in a demo application. It covers how live data works and then we will see how to use live data. Why do we need view model? We are in section 3, video 1. And this video talks about what is a view model. It also explains the life cycle of view model. So let's go and get into the details of view model. Now, when you start developing an Android application, one of the most common thing you need to handle is the configuration changes. Now let's say this is my activity and it is a text view where I generate a random number and display it. Now let's say some configuration changes occurs, or let's say the user rotates the device. So on rotating this device, the activity is reloaded and the random number is generated again, and thus the old data is lost and a new one is created. So we won't want the user to lose the data on configuration changes like rotation of the screen. We need to keep our data intact. And to do that, we will use view model. Now what view model does is it provides the data to the UI. So when the activity is in the portrait mode, it will fetch the data from the view model. And then again, when the configuration is changed, the same data will be sent to the activity in the landscape mode. So view data keeps the data intact and provides the data to the UI, or here the activities. So let's see how the view model survives this configuration changes. So let's look into the life cycle of the view model. Now this is my activity which is in the portrait mode. On opening the application, this activity is created. Now, since the time the activity is created, we link it to a view model. And this view model survives until and unless the activity that created it is completely destroyed. When the activity is created in the portrait mode, the lifecycle methods of onCreate, onStart and onResume is executed. And the activity enters the running phase. Now let's say I want to rotate the screen, and thus the activity will be rotated. Now on rotating this activity, for the activity that was in the portrait mode, the lifecycle methods of onPause, onStop and onDestroy is executed. And when the activity in the landscape mode is created, the functions of onCreate, onStart and onResume are executed. And thus the activity starts running in the landscape mode. Now since we have attached this view model to our activity, the data which was created when the activity was first started is preserved and the same data is passed to the activity in the landscape mode. Thus using the view model has preserved our data without any loss. Now let's say I want to close my application and I'll close it by pressing the back button. When I close my application, the activity will be finished and completely destroyed, and thus the functions of onPause, onStop and onDestroy are executed. Now since this activity is completely destroyed, the view model also gets cleared. So when the activity is destroyed, this onCleared method is automatically triggered and the view model is completely destroyed. So within this onCleared method, we can perform some more actions of cleaning up the resources and free up some memory. So we can see this view model has survived all the configuration changes during the life cycle of activity. The activity was created and on rotating the screen, the activity was destroyed and created again. But the view model was not affected at all and it kept the data safe, providing the data to the activity each time it was created. Now when the activity is created, it has to handle a number of tasks like displaying the UI data, reacting to the user action, handling the operating system communication, and loading the data from network or the database. Now, performing all these actions in the single activity class makes the code lengthy and makes it difficult to maintain. So, when we use the view model, this workload of the activity is reduced. The view model processes the data that has to be sent to the UI. So, it performs all the logical operations related to data and provide the data to the activity. This will help clean up the code from the main activity. So, summarizing everything that we learned just now, the view model survives the configuration changes. The example that we saw here was the screen rotation. View model is not same as on-saved instance state. Now we can use on-save instance state to retain small amount of data, let's say some integer, string or boolean values. But when it comes to large amount of data, let's say bitmap or fetching the user list from the network, we can use view model. This will reduce the processing time a lot. So view model stores and manages the UI related data. Next, the view model is destroyed only if the owner activity is completely destroyed. And this destruction of the view model is automatically triggered and it is destroyed in the onCleared function. View model acts as the communication layer between the database and the UI. Now, since we use the view model to store the data before sending it to the activity or the UI, it acts as the communication layer between the data resources and the UI components. So that was all about the concept of view model. In the next video, we will look into the working example of view model. So stay tuned.